There is a quiet apartment sitting on the fourth floor of a narrow residential street in Kyoto. Outside, as dusk begins to settle over the city, early evening light filters through the rain-slicked wooden alleyways, reflecting off wet pavement and traditional dark timber balconies. Inside, a 52-year-old woman named Naoko steps into her living space after completing an exhausting 10-hour shift managing shipping schedules at a regional logistics firm. Her home is remarkably small, measuring barely 500 square feet. Within these tight walls, she raises 2 teenagers, cooks 3 fresh meals every single day, and manages the entire household without hired help, complex organizational gadgets, or high-end luxury appliances. Yet the precise moment her foot clears the threshold of her front door, something extraordinary happens. Her shoulders immediately drop. Her breathing deepens and slows. She moves through her apartment with an unhurried, peaceful ease that feels almost entirely alien in our modern, hyper-accelerated world. If you were to step inside and observe her living space closely, you would notice something even more striking. There are no plastic storage totes stacked in the corners of the room. There are no closet drawers crammed so tightly with fabric that they stick halfway when you attempt to pull them open. There are no towering piles of unsorted mail, discarded receipts, or miscellaneous items sitting on the dining surface, quietly demanding her cognitive energy and attention after a long day of mental effort. Everything within the space feels light, spacious, and balanced, as though the apartment itself is breathing in complete serenity. Meanwhile, somewhere else across the world at this exact same moment, millions of people walk into their own homes after work and feel their chests instantly tighten with a sudden, subtle wave of unresolved anxiety. They step over shoes piled haphazardly inside the doorway. They set their car keys down on a kitchen counter that is already buried beneath a chaotic layer of daily mail, kitchen utensils, and half-finished projects. They look around at rooms that feel less like a sanctuary of rest and more like an endless, overwhelming list of unfinished physical chores. When faced with this constant friction, most people blame themselves. They tell themselves that they are simply lazy or disorganized. They convince themselves that if they just possessed more personal discipline, if they purchased another set of plastic storage bins, or if they sacrificed their entire Saturday morning to a brutal cleaning spree, their living environment would finally feel ordered and serene. But what if the profound difference between these two living environments has almost nothing to do with personal willpower, almost nothing to do with how many hours you spend scrubbing or tidying, and almost everything to do with 12 invisible, structural storage rules that govern traditional Japanese domestic design? Rules that most people outside of Japan have simply never been taught? For generations, modern Western culture has treated household organization as a continuous, exhausting battle against mess. We view clutter as a natural disaster that continually happens to us, and we rely on willpower, weekend purges, and complex container systems to fight back. We buy more containers, install extra shelves, and push unneeded items deeper into dark closets, operating under the naive hope that hiding items out of sight means they will cease to burden our minds. Traditional Japanese domestic philosophy understood a fundamental psychological reality centuries ago. You cannot organize clutter. You can only manage it, track it, and clean around it until it inevitably overwhelms your space and your mind once again. Real, permanent visual order is not created by cleaning harder or buying more boxes. It is created by establishing an architectural storage framework where clutter simply loses the physical capacity to form in the first place. Over the course of this video, we are going to break down all 12 secret storage rules that maintain the calm, highly functional environment of traditional Japanese homes. We will explore the cognitive neuroscience behind why visual disorganization physically drains your brain's working memory, why standard horizontal storage methods actively train your mind to feel overwhelmed, and how precise physical adjustments to how you place everyday objects in space can fundamentally lower your daily cortisol levels. Let us begin with rule number 1, the single home principle, Katakaduke. Rule number 1 states that every physical object within your living space must possess one permanent geometric address and only one. In the vast majority of households, everyday objects live a nomadic existence. A pair of kitchen scissors sits in a utensil drawer on Monday, migrates to the living room coffee table on Tuesday, settles on an office desk by Thursday, and disappears onto a bedroom nightstand by the weekend. A roll of tape moves between 3 different drawers. Mobile phone chargers wander endlessly from room to room, settling wherever an available wall outlet happens to be. To most people, this casual displacement seems like a harmless, minor habit of everyday life. But to cognitive psychologists, this phenomenon represents a continuous, draining tax on human attention known as micro-decision friction. Every single time you pick up a physical object and set it down in a temporary, unassigned location, your brain is forced to process an incomplete decision. Neuroscientists refer to this as an open cognitive loop. When your eyes catch a glimpse of a pair of scissors sitting on a dining counter where it does not permanently belong, your subconscious mind instantly registers a tiny hit of unresolved tension. Where does this go? Should I move it now or deal with it later? That individual thought takes less than half a second to pass through your mind. But when your living space contains dozens of wandering, homeless items, your brain is forced to process hundreds of these micro-decisions every single hour you spend awake in your home. A landmark study conducted by the Princeton Neuroscience Institute used functional magnetic resonance imaging to track precisely how physical environments alter human cognitive processing. The researchers discovered that when multiple visual stimuli are present within a person's visual field, those stimuli directly compete for neural representation in the visual cortex. In plain language, when your environment contains objects out of place, those objects actively pull on your brain's limited processing bandwidth, even when you are not consciously paying attention to them. Visual disorganization literally drains your available working memory, degrades your focus, and elevates baseline stress levels throughout the day. In Japanese domestic practice, this cognitive drain is completely eliminated through the discipline of Katakaduke, the deliberate, unyielding practice of assigning a fixed physical coordinate to every single item in the house, down to a single spare battery or paperclip. When an object possesses an absolute, unquestioned home, returning that item to its location requires zero willpower, zero reflection, and zero decision-making energy. You do not spend 20 minutes at night cleaning up the room. You simply perform a swift series of automatic physical returns. If an item in your house currently lacks a designated permanent address, it is not a functional belonging, it is homeless clutter. You must define its permanent address first. And if you find that an item cannot earn a logical, dedicated space within your home, that object is signaling that it has no business existing in your life. Rule number 2, the 80-20 visual vacuum, OMA. Standard Western storage logic is built upon the ideal of maximum spatial efficiency. When we look at an empty wardrobe, a bookshelf, or a kitchen cabinet, our natural instinct is to fill 100% of the available physical volume. We stack cardboard boxes until they press against the top shelf. We cram clothing hangers together until garments are compressed flat against one another. We push spice jars deep into pantry shelves until the back row is entirely dark. We have been conditioned to believe that empty space is wasted space, a sign of inefficiency or poor organization. Japanese interior philosophy operates on an entirely opposite neurological principle known as Ma. Ma translates roughly as the intentional, meaningful presence of negative space. It is the silent pause between notes in a musical composition that gives the melody its structure and emotional weight. Applied directly to domestic storage, the 80-20 rule dictates that no cabinet, shelf, drawer, or closet should ever be filled beyond 80% of its total physical volume. 20% of every single storage zone must remain completely, deliberately empty. Here is the functional reason why this buffer is essential for effortless order. When a drawer or shelf is filled to 100% capacity, Retrieving any single item requires you to physically shift, lift, or disrupt 3 or 4 surrounding items. Taking out a single plate requires lifting a heavy stack of bowls. Pulling out a shirt requires forcefully shoving 6 adjacent hangers aside. That micro resistance, a minor physical delay of just 2 or 3 seconds, builds an invisible psychological barrier in your brain. Your mind realizes that putting the item back will require 2 hands, physical effort, and careful adjustment. Over days and weeks, this micro friction accumulates. You begin leaving items sitting on counters just for now because returning them to a jammed cabinet feels frustrating. The 20% empty buffer is not wasted square footage, it is functional breathing space. It provides the visual negative space your eyes need to perceive calm, and it supplies the physical clearance your hands require to retrieve and return objects in one fluid, frictionless motion. Inspect your cabinets today. If a drawer requires a physical push to slide shut, or if your clothes hangers cannot glide effortlessly along the closet rod, you are not maintaining a functional home. You are managing overcrowded inventory. Rule number 3. Vertical visibility. Consider the layout of a standard clothing or linen drawer. In most households, garments are folded flat and stacked vertically on top of one another in a deep pile. On paper, this seems logical because stacking utilizes vertical height. But consider the daily operational friction of that stack. You can only see the single garment resting at the top. The middle garments are partially obscured, and the item sitting at the very bottom is entirely hidden from view. When you want to wear the specific shirt located near the bottom of the stack, you are forced to use one hand to lift the upper garments while using your other hand to pull the target shirt out. Inevitably, the pile tilts, folded edges unravel, and within 48 hours, the entire drawer devolves into a messy pile of wrinkled fabric. In Japanese domestic storage, made famous internationally by minimalist methods but practiced in traditional linen chests for generations, items are stored vertically rather than horizontally. Clothes, linens, and soft goods are folded into compact, self-standing rectangles and placed upright, side by side, exactly like books lined up on a library shelf. The moment you pull a vertically arranged drawer open, 100% of its contents are immediately visible in a single glance. Nothing is buried, obscured, or hidden beneath another layer. Retrieving the third shirt from the left requires zero interaction with the shirt on the right. When you lift the item out, the remaining garments remain standing perfectly upright without unraveling or collapsing into disorder. There is a fundamental psychological rule governing human behavior. What is hidden from immediate sight is forgotten by the mind. When items are stacked horizontally, the lowest layers enter a state of total physical stagnation. You end up wearing the exact same 3 top garments over and over again, while the lower half of your drawer gathers dust for months. You end up buying duplicate tools or supplies at the store simply because you could not see that you already owned identical items buried under a horizontal stack in your pantry. Vertical filing eliminates hidden corners entirely, ensuring that every object you own remains active, visible, and immediately accessible. Rule number 4. The threshold boundary, Genkan. In traditional Japanese domestic architecture, the entrance of a home is not merely a doorway where a hinges swing open. It is an intentionally engineered architectural transition called the Genkan. The Genkan features a physical step down, creating a lower tiled floor area situated immediately inside the front door. This distinct drop serves as a strict, uncompromising boundary line between the chaos of the public outside world and the serene sanctuary of the interior home. Outdoor shoes never, under any circumstances, cross that step or touch the raised wooden flooring of the primary living space. The practical physics of this boundary are remarkable. A landmark environmental study conducted by the University of Houston revealed that over 99% of shoe soles carry dense concentrations of bacterial contamination, chemical residues, and outdoor toxins. When you walk through a home in outdoor shoes, every step deposits invisible, microscopic layers of street dust and allergens directly onto rugs, wooden floors, and low furniture legs. By enforcing an absolute threshold boundary at the front entry, up to 90% of incoming household dirt is stopped cold before it ever penetrates your living quarters. As a direct result, floor maintenance ceases to be an exhausting, multi-hour weekend scrubbing marathon and transforms into an effortless 2-minute daily sweep. Yet the primary power of the Genkan is psychological rather than physical. Stepping off your outdoor shoes at a clear physical threshold acts as an immediate neural trigger. The simple physical act of stepping out of street footwear and sliding into clean indoor slippers sends an unmistakable signal to your central nervous system. The demands of the public world are suspended, the workday is over, and you are officially safe inside your sanctuary. Living spaces without a clear threshold boundary suffer from constant environmental bleed-through, where the physical dust and subconscious stress of the street continuously invade every room in the house. Rule number 5. Categorical grouping. Over spatial grouping. When the average person decides to tackle a messy home, they almost universally approach the task room by room. They resolve to organize the bedroom on Saturday, clean out the kitchen on Sunday, and sort through the living room over the following weekend. On the surface, this feels logical and manageable. But Japanese organizational theorists have long recognized that room-by-room sorting is the primary trap that guarantees clutter will return within weeks. When you organize by physical location, you inevitably store the exact same category of items in multiple different places across your home. You end up with winter coats in the front hallway, light jackets in the bedroom wardrobe, and an extra coat slung over an office chair. You keep pens on the kitchen counter, pens in a living room side table drawer, and another batch of pens on your desk. Because your belongings are fragmented across different rooms, you can never accurately grasp the true volume of what you actually own. You operate under the constant visual illusion that you possess only a few pens or a couple of jackets, leading you to purchase unnecessary duplicates over and over again. The Japanese rule of categorical storage demands that you group items strictly by their functional category, completely ignoring the room they happen to sit in. Every single writing utensil in the home lives in one single container. Every single official document resides in one designated filing box. Every piece of outerwear hangs in one single wardrobe line. When you gather an entire category into one physical location, two things happen immediately. First, the illusion of scarcity vanishes. You are forced to confront the true, undeniable quantity of what you have accumulated over the years. Second, retrieving an item becomes completely seamless. You never have to search 3 separate rooms to find a tape measure or a pair of scissors because the entire category resides at one single, unyielding address. Rule number 6, the Mizumawari principle, clearing the water zones. In Japanese domestic design, there is a specialized term for the areas directly surrounding water fixtures, Mizumawari, which encompasses the kitchen sink, the bathroom vanity, and the shower area. Traditional culture views water zones as vital mirrors of household health and mental clarity. When water splashes, stalls, or pools around cluttered items, it creates stagnant grime and accelerates the physical breakdown of surfaces. Consider the typical bathroom vanity or kitchen sink in most Western homes. The flat counter space surrounding the faucet is usually crowded with soap bottles, damp sponges, hair products, dish racks, and lotion jars. Every time water splashes from the tap, it collects beneath these containers, creating a damp, slippery film that requires constant, frustrating wiping and scrubbing. The Mizumawari principle mandates that all horizontal surfaces surrounding water sources must remain completely clear of permanent physical objects. Sponges, soaps, and brushes are elevated onto hanging wall racks, mounted on magnetic strips, or stowed away inside ventilated drawers beneath the sink. When you need to clean a completely clear counter surrounding a sink, the task takes precisely 3 seconds with a single pass of a cloth. There are no bottles to lift, no trays to shift out of the way, and no hidden damp spots breeding mildew. The area stays dry, pristine, and hygienic with virtually zero daily effort. The psychological impact of a clear Mizumawari space is immediate. Because human beings interact with water fixtures first thing in the morning and last thing before bed, starting and ending your day at a dry, pristine, completely unobstructed counter creates a subconscious anchor of order that quietly ripples across your entire daily mindset. Rule number 7, the seasonal rotation protocol, Koromogae. One of the greatest sources of visual density in closets and pantries is the permanent presence of out-of-season items. In the heat of midsummer, bulky wool sweaters and heavy down jackets sit side by side with light linen shirts, crowding the wardrobe rail and forcing you to physically push past thick fabrics every morning just to locate a summer top. In the depth of winter, sun hats and beach towels occupy prime, eye-level shelf space. In Japan, the practice of Koromogae, the formal seasonal wardrobe shift, has been systematically practiced for centuries. The governing philosophy is simple. Your primary active living space should only contain items that are directly useful to you right now, in the current season of your life. Belongings that belong to an opposite season are thoroughly cleaned, neatly folded, and removed entirely from primary storage. They are placed inside breathable storage modules, under bed compartments, or upper closet shelves until their specific season arrives. When you open a wardrobe managed under the seasonal rotation protocol, every single item that meets your eyes is immediately wearable, relevant, and ready for use. The visual density of your closet instantly drops by half. You no longer waste time or decision-making energy filtering through garments that are completely climate inappropriate. Your storage feels twice as spacious, not because you acquired more square footage, but because you systematically cleared out the noise of the unneeded. Rule number 8, the one in, one out balance rule. The fundamental law of household clutter creation is subtle and continuous. Acquiring new items is completely effortless, while disposing of old items requires deliberate, uncomfortable effort. Every single week, new physical items enter your home: groceries, delivery packages, promotional freebies, clothing purchases, and mail. Most people simply add these new arrivals to their existing space without ever removing an older item to balance the scale. This creates a state of perpetual physical inflation. Over months and years, your home slowly fills like a bathtub with the faucet running and the drain plug. To prevent this silent accumulation, Japanese minimalists enforce the uncompromising rule of one in, one out, and during active decluttering phases, one in, two out. The rule dictates a strict equilibrium. The moment a new physical item enters your living space, an existing item in the exact same category must immediately exit. If you bring home a new shirt, an older shirt must be donated, recycled, or discarded before the new shirt takes its spot in the wardrobe. If you buy a new kitchen spatula, an old or redundant utensil must leave the drawer. This single habit completely neutralizes the threat of household expansion. It forces you to pause at the exact point of purchase and evaluate a critical trade-off. Is this new item valuable enough to replace something I already own? The healthy friction of having to select an existing belonging for removal instantly curtails impulse buying and ensures that the total volume of your physical possessions stays permanently fixed within the natural capacity of your home. Rule number 9, the uniform container protocol. Inside most kitchen cabinets, pantries, and refrigerators across the Western world, chaos reigns in the form of visual discord. Cardboard boxes of different shapes, plastic bags with brightly colored logos, mismatched takeout containers with warped lids, and jars of varying heights clash with one another on every shelf. Even when the items themselves are organized, the human eye registers this explosion of shapes, colors, and commercial typography as raw noise. Japanese storage architecture addresses this hidden cognitive load through the uniform container protocol. Rather than storing items in their original commercial packaging, dry goods, spices, grains, cleaning supplies, and refrigerator leftovers are immediately transferred into clear, uniform matching containers. This practice is far more than a decorative preference. It is rooted in visual ergonomics. When you open a pantry filled with identical clear glass jars or uniform white bin modules, the visual field is instantly unified. Your brain no longer has to process dozens of competing logos, contrasting brand colors, and conflicting package dimensions. The clear material allows you to assess your inventory levels in less than 2 seconds, completely eliminating the mental friction of opening lids or shaking boxes to see how much rice, pasta, or flour remains. By standardizing the physical geometry of your storage containers, you maximize every millimeter of shelf depth, allowing items to stack and align with grid-like precision. Visual peace inside a cabinet is not created by hiding items away. It is created by removing the commercial noise that those items arrived in. Rule number 10. The floating desk and nightstand standard. The sleeping area and the workspace represent two environments where the human mind is most vulnerable to environmental influence. Yet in millions of bedrooms and home offices, nightstands and desks become permanent landing zones for physical static. Laptops, charging cables, half-read books, water glasses, work notebooks, and loose coins pile up inches away from where you sleep or try to focus. In Japan, the bedroom and study are governed by a strict rule. The surfaces of the nightstand and workspace must be cleared completely down to the bare wood at the conclusion of every single day. When you sleep next to work materials, notebooks, or unresolved paperwork, your subconscious brain is forced to associate the sanctuary of rest with the stress of output, labor, and unfinished obligations. The last image your eyes register before closing at night is a physical manifestation of your to-do list. Similarly, starting your morning at a desk covered in yesterday's coffee mugs and scattered papers forces your prefrontal cortex to pay an immediate attention. Switching tacks before you even write your first line of code or read your first document. Under the floating standard, nightstands hold nothing more than a lamp and a single glass of water. Work desks are reset every evening, laptops are closed and placed inside a drawer, pens are returned to their designated trays, and papers are filed vertically. By enforcing a blank slate on these two critical surfaces, you allow your brain to switch cleanly into deep restoration at night and effortless focus in the morning. Rule number 11. The hidden utility infrastructure. In a functional Japanese home, functional tools, brooms, vacuum cleaners, ironing boards, trash bins, and power strips are vital to daily life, but they are never permitted to exist as permanent visual landmarks in a room. When a vacuum cleaner sits in the corner of a bedroom, or when a surge protector with a tangle of black cord spills across a living room floor, your mind registers those objects as unfinished tasks and physical disorder. The utility of the item is offset by the visual drag it creates in the room day after day. The hidden utility rule dictates that every functional or maintenance tool must be housed within concealed architectural niches or custom cabinetry designed specifically around their dimensions. Power strips and cords are routed inside cable management boxes or mounted under desk frames, completely hiding the wire grid from line of sight. Trash bins are integrated into sliding kitchen drawers rather than sitting out on the floor. When you remove the physical instruments of labor from your visual field, your living space ceases to feel like an active utility closet. The home transitions from a place where work is constantly waiting to be done into a calm, finished environment designed purely for living. Rule number 12. The Touch Audit Home Reset Test. Now that we have covered the foundational storage rules, how do you audit your existing space in under 5 minutes to know exactly what to keep and what to eliminate tonight? Japanese home organization relies on a precise 2-step audit known as the Touch Audit Reset. Step 1 is the physical tension test. Pick up any object in your home that you suspect might be clutter, a souvenir, an old piece of clothing, an unused appliance, or a stack of papers. Hold it in both hands, close your eyes, and notice your physical body. If you do not feel an immediate sense of ease or utility, if there is a tiny flicker of guilt, obligation, anxiety, or fatigue, that object is actively draining your energy every single day. Your body registers the psychological weight of belongings long before your rational mind tries to justify keeping them. Step 2 is the threshold test. Ask yourself one simple question: would I proudly display this item at the front entrance of my home to greet a respected guest? If the answer is no, if you would be embarrassed to display it at your front door, then it does not deserve to sit quietly in your closet, linger in your drawers, or occupy space on your nightstand. Either dot. If an object fails both steps of the touch audit, it has completed its service in your life, and it is time to release it with gratitude. Look around your room right now. Look at your desk, your shelves, your closet door, and the floor beside your bed. Clutter is not an inevitable fact of adult life. It is simply the accumulation of postponed decisions. You do not need a larger house, expensive storage containers, or more willpower. You simply need a lighter space governed by clear rules that work with your human biology rather than against it. A calm home is not built by adding more storage boxes. It is built by refusing to keep what no longer belongs. Clear the surfaces, assign an address to every item, honor the negative space, and let your home finally become the quiet sanctuary it was always meant to be.